Hi, I'm Bud from Strum Supply. Music theory sounds so formal and academic, but I'm going to show you just how simple the basic concepts can be, and I know you're going to find this useful. We create these videos to share tips, techniques, and tools so that you can improve your skills, but most of all, so that you can have more fun when you're making music. Now, I know some of this is very basic for you experienced players, but there was a time when we didn't know these things, and everybody needs to learn. I'm going to go very fast over some of this, but you can pause or replay to master these concepts. And I can promise you, from my experience playing the guitar for 50 years, you're going to find this useful. I have used these concepts over and over through the years. We're going to start our journey into useful music theory for the guitarist by exploring the concept of the octave. Music is actually built upon the physical science phenomena of sound frequencies. Every note or tone that we hear is actually a vibration, and the sound waves can be measured in frequency. We're also going to use the piano keyboard to illustrate some of the basic concepts because it is very visually informative. When I superimpose the note names on the white keys, you can see the full octave from C to C. In fact, every octave, we are hearing the frequency of a tone double. There are 7 white keys on the piano keyboard from C to C. These are sometimes called the natural notes. This is also what's known as the diatonic scale, the 7 tones in the scale. There are also 5 black keys on the octave from C to C. These notes are the sharp and flats between each natural note. Notice there's no black key between E and F and between B and C. That's important. We're going to come back to that later. If you were to play every note, every black and white key, starting at the low C, you would play 12 tones before you got to the next C. Those are called semitones. So there's 7 white keys plus 5 black keys. You add that up, you get 12. There's 12 semitones in an octave. This is also what's known as the chromatic scale. Now let's go to the guitar fingerboard for a minute. We're very accustomed to playing semitones. We have 1 semitone between each fret. And if you play up 1 fret or down 1 fret, you're changing your tone by 1 semitone. If you were to start at an open low E string and play every fret until you got back to E, you would actually play 12 semitones before you got back to E. So notice, no different, guitar or piano, there are 12 semitones in an octave. Now for a minute, let's go back to the piano keyboard and explore the major scale. Scales are sequences of notes that are familiar and sound harmonic to us. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do are names that have been given to those 7 notes. And in fact, if you sing it, you actually know the relationship between the tones. So every major scale follows that same structure. The notes in the C major scale are the white keys on the keyboard, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And that's why I like to use the keyboard as an illustration, because it's very visual and it's very easy to understand. However, you need to know that the C major scale is the only scale that has no sharps or flats in it. That's very important. So the C major scale has no sharps and flats. Every other key will have sharps and flats in it. So what's the structure? The structure of the major scale is always the same. No matter what the root note, no matter what key you are in, it is step, step, half step, 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 half step. Sometimes called whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. This just happens to be the way that I learned it. Now let's go back to the guitar. And if I were to say that I was going to build the G major scale, starting with an open G string, okay, what notes would be in the G major scale? Well, we know there are going to be 7 notes before we get back to G in the major scale. And those notes are A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Notice in the key of G major, we have a sharp, 1 sharp. And so here I have designated across the bottom, this is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and the 1 or the 8. It's really the 1 again of the next octave, but we sometimes number them and keep numbering for more advanced chord forms, and we'll get into that in another lesson. Also, be aware that the structure has not changed. I changed keys. I went from C major to G major, but the structure, the formula is identical. You have the same relationship between the notes. And I also want to point out at this time that for every note in a scale, there is an equivalent chord, and those chords are the ones that you would typically hear played when a song is written in that key. And so if you were to play a song in the key of G, you would likely play the chord G and A, B, C, D, and E. Probably not play the 7. That's usually not played except in jazz. And there are only 3 major chords in each of these cases, and it's the 1, the 4, and the 5. And so those are the most common chords that you find in most songs. So I did the G major scale for you. Now, if I ask you to use the open D string as the 1 note and to build the D major scale from there, I'm sure you could do it. What notes would be in the D major scale? That's right. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Notice in D major we have 2 sharps. And we'll talk more about key signatures in a future lesson. But this all will fit together. You'll begin to see how all of this fits together over time. So now let's go to E major. And once again, E major, the structure is identical. In the case of E major, we have 4 sharps. And so if you were playing in E major on the piano, you would probably be playing a lot of black keys. So what we've talked about today is the concept of the octave. We've talked about semitones. We've talked about the formula of the major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Remember that. It is so useful. And these concepts are foundational for some of the things that we're going to talk about in the future. Now that you understand the musical octave, you understand semitones, you understand what a whole step is, you understand the structure of a major scale. These are very useful tools and will come in quite handy, especially as we go forward and talk about chord and chord structures and chord relationships within songs.
If you found this video to be helpful, please give us a thumbs up. And also ring that notification bell. Just click on the bell and you'll get notified of each of the upcoming lessons that we're going to be releasing. And please use the comment section. Share your favorite tips on music theory. We can all learn from each other. And finally, do let us know how we can make these videos better or topics that you'd like to see us cover. Until next time.